All right, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about how do you charter your team. I believe every team should have a charter. Most people aren't actually doing that with their teams, so let's try to correct that with this presentation. It's going to be a little heavy in some sections, just text heavy. Take some screenshots or some notes on that. But again, it's just mostly an overview, although we will dig into some areas. So, without further ado, what's the whole point? Well, a team charter is the document, right? And it documents what the team is agreeing to and what the team is trying to accomplish. Have you done that before? It also talks about why the team is important and why what it's accomplishing is important, and also how you're going to proceed. What's the objective of the team? So often we just put teams together without any purpose, and every team should have some purpose, and that's partly what the charter helps to solve. So quick overview of a team charter, just to see what we're about to embark on here, is you've got your organizational and team vision, purpose, and values, right? Those are separated, but you can combine them for sake of argument. Then you've got your team norms and your member roles, key responsibility areas and goals, your communication strategies, your decision making, how you make decisions and who has authority to make decisions, and then your resources, a whole bucket of resources to take a look into. So those components are all make up the team charter. So let's get into it a little bit more. So first, organizational and team vision, purpose and values. Hopefully your organization has a vision, purpose, and values, and then if you're a team part of that organization, your purpose and values should support the organization. So they're kind of the same. Now, if you're just one person show, well, obviously you don't have a team yet, then, do you? But if you're one and the same, the organization and the team working together, you can combine this. But it's almost always going to be organization should do its work first, and then any teams that come out of that. And so this is the foundation of the team charter. It provides context for the team's existence. And you've got to make sure that every team that's created is in alignment with the organization. Makes sense. So the team's vision, right, is the picture of the ideal end result. It determines how the team is pursuing its purpose. And the team's purpose identifies what the team does, for whom, why it's important, and provides direction for assigning roles, setting goals, and determining strategies. That's the purpose of the team, in case you didn't acknowledge that or recognize that. And then there's the team values, right? These are the enduring beliefs that guides the team's choices and their actions and define what's right and what's important. So if an organization doesn't have this, it's tough for a team to succeed, because what is it measuring against? It's measuring against the organizational goals. So if you don't have an organizational charter, or at least the vision, the purpose, and the values from an organization standpoint, there's no sense in creating a team. You're not going to be a successful team without that. So let's run through a quick little checklist, and we'll do this after each module. Just check off in your mind which ones you have and think about which ones you don't, and if you can make any adjustments. Team members are committed to and can articulate the organization's vision, purpose, and values. Team members know how the team's purpose fits into the larger organization. Team members accurately describe the picture of success. And team members reflect behaviors that demonstrate commitment to the values of the team. How's your team doing? So now let's get into team norms and member roles. These are the explicit or implicit ground rules that identify appropriate behavior for team members. So, how do you know people are doing a good job or not, and how do you know what's acceptable or not acceptable, right? You've got your norms, and norms, what they do is they clarify expected behavior, they provide a basis for corrective action, and they help team members hold each other accountable. So do you know what the norms are for the team? And then the roles, well, these define individual responsibilities for the successful operation of the team. Most people get this down. They can understand the roles. So let's hit the checklist again for team norms and member roles. Explicit and implicit team norms and ground rules are agreed upon. Leaders and stewards are identified, their roles and expectations clear and are agreed on. Meeting roles are assigned, leader, facilitator, scribe, processor, other. And team meetings are planned, when, where, and how long. How are you doing on that? So key responsibility areas and goals are derived from the team's purpose. Now, your key responsibility areas, those define the major function areas involved in achieving the team's purpose. Makes sense. And goals identify the measurable outcomes and timelines that are needed to be successful. So a quick check-in for you. Are key responsibility areas defined and prioritized? Has the team developed relevant goals? Are they agreed upon measurable outcomes and deliverables established? Some things to think about. Next, you want to think about communication strategies, right? You want to ensure that there's timely sharing of information among team members, stakeholders, and the organization, right? And the easiest way to look at this is your meetings, right? So list all of the meetings that you have. How frequently do you have them, and what's the desired result of each meeting? If you're having meetings and you don't have a desired result ahead of time, you shouldn't be having that meeting. So let's run through the communication strategies checklist. Planned coordination with other teams or other initiatives, organized coordination among team members, developed communication systems among team members and other stakeholders. How'd you do? So now let's talk about decision-making authority and accountability. This is the process that the team uses to make decisions. Authority defines the scope of the team's responsibility in decision-making, and accountability establishes strategies to ensure that commitments are kept. It's kind of the what, who, and how. So the what is what can be decided and what is recommended. Who has the approval process for the decisions or recommendations, and how are the decision-making methods. You might not think about it too often, but it would be helpful to start. There's a lot of decision-making options. You could have, as an example, one person decides with no input from others. That's fairly authoritarian, right? You could have one person decides with the input from others, lieutenants or trusted circle, right? Experts. You could have a group decide with less than half the group making the decision, or you could have a group decide with more than half the group making the decision, which would be a democracy, right? Or you could have the group decide with consensus or unanimity. So there's a number of ways. So it's important to think about ahead of time, how are you going to decide how to decide? And then inevitably conflicts come up. So how are you going to manage that conflict? There's a few ideas, right? Focus conflict into the ideas and strategies, not on personal agenda. Focus on commonality and agreement with key values. Aim focus and be customer-centric. Have a valid mission and purpose. That's again why the mission and purpose is so important. They aid in the decision-making and conflict resolution. You could outline the problems of both parties and state your objectives, and then always discuss what happens next. So let's hit the decision-making authority and accountability checklist and see how you've done. Established limits on team members' authority to make decisions. Agreed upon approval process for decision-making methods used. Information or access to subject matter experts is made available. Finally, there's resources. These are the tangible materials and support needed by the team to accomplish the goals. So whatever in your resource bucket. Some ideas could be budget availability or constraints, right? Time, what are the time demands? Necessary training or skill development, and access to relevant information. So let's hit the resources checklist. Identified necessary resources, explored budget availability constraints, team members received the necessary training skills development, access to relevant information. How are you doing? So as you can see, there is a lot to a team charter, which is probably why a lot of people don't do it. On the other hand, if you use a simple template and make sure that every team that you're on or involved with has these questions answered, you're going to be in better shape. So what are some next steps to help you get there? Well, do this self-check. Go through the checklist again and see how you're doing. And then shore up any missing areas. You're going to have missed something. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up, but fix it. And then you want to make sure that once you have a charter established that you're reviewing it anytime that there are changes on the team, whether you add people, people are off the team, or if there are significant changes into resources or other directions. It's always valuable to review the team charter. It keeps everybody fresh and on mind to the agreements that they've made. If you have any other questions or anything, of course, you can always reach out to Karl Bimshas Consulting for some further leadership development and accountability. Until then, thanks.